Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Dive Current. My name is Steve Lewis-Shawn. Today's video is dedicated to the dive locker. That's the room that we're in right now. This is my favorite room in the house. So let me explain to you a little bit before we get started what makes my dive room so unique. Well, it's mine and it has all my gear in it. My kids aren't really allowed in it. I just make sure that everything's just so. It's a lot safer that way too. Things don't get broke. I don't lose things. But I want to talk to you a little bit more of what makes it unique. By the way, do you have a dedicated room for your dive gear? If so, what makes your room unique? You can comment below, or you can also send me pictures or videos to info@divecurrent.com. I would love to see your setup. Let me give you a little backstory to this dive room. Quite a few years ago, we lived in another house. We bought that house back in 2010 when my wife and I first got married. It had a small little basement, and it was not ideal to store dive gear in. It was a very wet basement. And I had a tiny little corner that I kept all my stuff on. Needless to say, as my stuff started growing, I couldn't really keep everything in that room, and I found myself taking things apart and putting them in cases and storing them away. And after a while, it got really annoying trying to build and rebuild things and take things apart and service things. It just got really frustrating. I found myself wanting a place that I could just set gear up, have it dive ready. So that's exactly what I did when I bought this house. I took this part of the house and I dedicated it to my dive gear. I built a bench. It has a waterproof vinyl coating on top, and it allows me to just put all my dive gear on there, not worrying about mold and mildew or water getting everywhere. And it's at a height where I can just take and put those tanks on my back at any given moment, and my door to the house is right here. I can walk right outside and load my stuff up in the vehicle. It's so convenient and I love it. Now, let me explain to you a little bit about the stuff behind me. There is a reason that I have all of this different dive gear. There's a method to my madness. So let me explain to you, first of all, this set right here, it's a set of open circuit doubles. For those of you that don't know what open circuit is, well, it's the opposite of a closed circuit. So closed circuit rebreather, for example, I'm able to recycle or rebreathe that gas without waste. On an open circuit, whenever we breathe gas from the tank through our regulator, we expel or exhale bubbles. It just goes off into the universe and it's wasted. So that is the set of doubles I actually got certified on when I became a tech diver back in 2018. So they have a lot of sentimental value to me, and I still use them quite often. This set of doubles here, they're a little different. They have smaller tanks on them, and it's dedicated for the rebreather. You might say, well, why do you need open circuit doubles when you have a closed circuit rebreather? Well, let me explain to you something. That rebreather mounts on my chest, and those doubles right there, they have D-rings specifically placed so I can clip that rebreather on there. Also, the regulator is set up for that rebreather. It has what's called a QC6 hose. It connects the rebreather to that set of doubles. And essentially what it does is it gives me a ton of gas on my back, and we call that redundancy. If something were to go wrong with my rebreather, I have a full set of doubles and open circuit gear to be able to finish the dive safely or donate gas to somebody else. It's a pretty awesome setup. Right here I have my recreational tech setup. It's a rec tech setup. It's a back plate and wing. It's the trans plate by Dive Right. And it has the Voyager wing on there. And what that does is it allows me to dive similar to how my boys dive. So that when we're diving, they can relate to my setup and I can relate to them. It just makes it a little bit easier, a little safer in my estimation. So I use that when I want to dive in my dry suit. If I want to do some deeper cold stuff just with a single tank, I can jump right in that thing. Easy breezy, no problem at all. And of course behind me here, this is one of my prides and my joys. This is the Dive Right Optima CM chest mounted rebreather. I use this thing now for probably 95, if not more % of my dives, and I love it very much. We'll talk about this in a later video of what a rebreather is, where I'll explain to you the basics for those of you that don't know. All right, let's move on. So this is actually my setup here for travel. So this is a travel setup. It's a It's a soft plate and wing. It's the Transpac by Dive Right, and I use it when I do like Florida trips, whenever I have to travel and can't carry all this heavy gear with me. Now let me move the camera over here a little bit. This is actually my boys' setups here. So this is their BCDs. This is the Ziegel Ranger Junior BCD, and I like this for kids for one main reason. It grows with them. So if you're looking for a good option for your kids to dive in, this is great. They could use this up until they're teenagers. It's amazing. So my son Michael, he's 12. This is his dedicated setup just for him. Nobody else uses it. My son Camden, who will be 10 next year, he will be certified using this right here. He already has probably 50 or 60 dives in our pool on this guy. It's pretty awesome. So I even dedicate units to those boys. I have a 5-year-old. He doesn't have his own yet, but he will when he's a little bit older. He can't really fit the regulator in his mouth yet. His mouth is still kind of small. All right, let me actually take the camera here and show you what these are here. So this is actually my Deco bottles and my diluent bottles for my rebreather, and also when I do open circuit. So in this case here, this is a Trimix blend. I plug this into the rebreather using that QC6 hose, which I'll show you in just a moment, and this allows me to plug this in and actually run my rebreather off of that, which is pretty cool. And this has 70% oxygen, 50% helium, and the rest is nitrogen. It gives me a maximum operating depth of 239 feet. We always mark our bottles so we know what gas is in them. So this is another bottle with just a different mix, so on and so forth. This is a little bit bigger bottle if I want to go a little bit deeper and longer. So you'll see I have dedicated bottles even to different types of diving that I like to do. So this is my oxygen bottle. Basically comes with me everywhere I go. I always have that with me. And got my boys, they have their own little Deco bottle here so they can practice in the pool. And have my fins over here. So let's take a look at these. So these are the Dive Right XT fins. These are my primary set of fins. I use these whenever I go diving. I have another set, heaven forbid I need it. And then I have a set specifically for the pool. I don't like mixing, things as far as pool dives and open water dives. I try to keep my gear separate just because I don't like chlorine in my tech stuff. Anyway, so just to give you an idea, I'll show you over here. This is actually where I hang my dry suit. And I have my wetsuits as well, and my boys' wetsuits. So it makes a nice little spot for that. And you'll see my makeshift little curtain here. My other one fell down. But this stops all that UV coming in and bleaching and messing with my wetsuits. All right, so that's the setup there. Now I want to turn the camera around, and I actually want to show you my workbench for my rebreather. This is where I take my rebreather apart, where I build it, and where I service different pieces of equipment specifically for the rebreather. All right, let's take a look at it. All right, over here we have my dedicated space for my rebreather. I like to have a little table here that I can actually take and pull in, pull out. So if I want to work on something, I can do that. If not, I kind of just tuck it away. It's gone. But I have this thing set up at a certain height where it's easy to work on. If I need to go and service something, take something apart, it's so much easier to work on it like this just because the height that it's at. Of course, I have the same vinyl coating, which is actually a flooring and put on with an adhesive, but it's scratch-proof, dent-proof, mold and mildew-proof. It's pretty awesome. All right, so that's my setup. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider subscribing to this channel, liking this video, hitting that bell for future notifications. You dive safe, and I'll see you in the water.